I'm Shwa. And you are listening to Light Up with Shwa, a weekly podcast to open our hearts and minds on a journey with me. Good morning, Jenny Bonham Carter.
Good morning.
Thank you for taking our time, and I'm really excited about our conversation today. What is the value of gratitude in your life?
It's central, I would say. It is something I do every day.
Good. How do you do that?
I thank God every day.
So you believe in God.
Yes.
You thank God. Nice.
And I try to thank my children, even though I don't do it all the time, but thank others for just acknowledging what happens around me.
What is the value of time?
Yeah, time is very valuable. I can feel as a parent that time is constantly on my mind, and it bothers me.
In what ways it bothers you?
It bothers me that I think about how to save time the whole time. That because I know that I don't want to feel stressed or think about time as being short at all times. But it is
So
hard
thinking
not
about
to
the next moment.
think about the next moment, thinking about how can I save time here? Oh, if I do these things, these three things at the same time, I'll save time.
Save time.
Because I also know, obviously, that time stands still in certain moments, and that's when I don't think about time. When you get that little glance and so on from your child, time stands still, and that's wonderful.
That's right. So children teach you to be more like in the moment, you mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So do you acknowledge that and respect that, and you try to do that? That's what you're saying?
I guess it is it sounds very contradictory, but I guess it is both. When life is busy, it is, and as a parent to young children, I'm in both of these worlds at the same time, and that's super fun as well.
Yeah.
To both be at all times busy, but also to be able to be in the moment and go, this is fantastic.
So you don't rush them all the time, but you do rush them through life? I'm asking you some.
It is, it's super interesting for me to reflect over.
Yes.
I think I do both, because I want them to be able to make their own choices over what they do with their time. Just like I know that I make my own choices over that. And I want them to be mindful of that. Because, I mean, time is what we have,
precious,
right? And we make our choices. We don't have to go to 100 activities. And at the same time, lots of those activities that both me and they do are also super fun. So that's good.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of this regularly.
Okay, that's good.
As you can hear.
That's good. What is the purpose of your life?
The purpose of my life is, I would say, something which sounds very grand. It's to make the world a better place, to extract happiness for myself, my family, and the world around me. I have put a quote from Pablo Picasso on the wall, which says, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give that gift away. And I love that.
That's very nice.
Even if I don't think about that every second of the day, I try to keep that in mind.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So how do you? You said that make the world better place. How do you do? Give me a couple of examples, or an example, if you can share with me any.
Sure. I guess being a parent first and try to make the kids have a better life and have some good understanding is the number one. And I don't know if I could pride myself to be that person, but I try. And then the rest is to, both in the micro perspective, when it comes to our community, neighbors, family, friends, and other people, be nice and be helpful. It is, and then,
as you said, respectful and all those little things.
All these little things, and in the larger perspective, I'm very interested in interfaith work. I've been involved with a lot of that, and in development aid, I've been working, and we are fortunate enough to be able to help some people through organizations, charities, giving money and time and prayer. Politically, trying to be aware, take a responsibility.
So, what do you know about interfaith?
I know a whole lot of things since the last 5-6 years when I've been involved with it. It is about, simply put, religions coming together, people from different backgrounds coming together, sharing similarities and understanding similarities and working for peace, and also not neglecting that there are challenges, but dealing with those in a peaceful manner.
Tell me about the organization that you had mentioned about that you were working for in Sweden.
In Sweden.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first organizations, interfaith organizations in Sweden.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's trying to bring young people together from different suburbs, because segregation is a huge
what's the name
problem.
of it, please?
It's called Together for Sweden.
Okay.
And it's bringing together and young people of different backgrounds and faiths to just get to know each other, go out in schools, to do workshops and other activities.
Good. Tell me more about it. Like why did you get involved in it? And it's something very interesting, fascinating, actually. That is the first organization in Sweden. And when did it start?
So it only started in 2011, and there was
no other organization before.
There had been a few, but it has been for adults more. Something called the Children of Abraham, for example, which I know exists in America as well. There have been some initiatives, but this was specifically for youth. And it was not also set in a church or a mosque or so, but in a youth center.
What is the age group of the youth?
So between sort of 16 all the way up to, I guess, 27, 28
okay, good.
Has been the target group for this organization. And the project started in 2011, and it was sprung out of a need that was felt of polarization, and also religion in itself is a very interesting topic in Sweden, because it's a very secularized country. But so therefore, kids and young people who are actually religious have, only by them being religious, they have something in common, no matter what religion they come from, because the norm in Sweden is very, very secular, I'd say.
So what religions were part of this? Yeah.
So it was Christian, mainly Protestant, I'd say.
Okay.
It's the Church of Sweden. And there were Muslim kids,
There were
Hindu,
Hindus,
Sikh, Jewish, and we had one or two who came from the humanists, so they were like so atheists. But we were looking for more for Buddhists. We never had any of them.
Okay.
And also a more variation from the different from the Christianity and the Muslims. Yeah.
Are there what you call the natives in your country?
No,
okay.
I would say not really.
Okay.
There is a population called the Sami people in the north of Sweden. But religion-wise, that is not somebody who was represented in the project.
So that organization was there, and you were part of that, right? And that's where you worked for.
Yeah, I became involved when I did my master's degree on human rights. I was led to this project by my teacher.
Oh, nice.
Who knew one of the founders of it. So it was founded by a female priest and by an imam.
Oh,
together.
Okay. Very nice. Are you still connected to that organization?
I'm connected to them, such as that we're connected on Facebook and see what's going on.
Okay.
So I'm not helping in any way right now from here. But I am very, very influenced by them still. And I'm hoping to bring my experiences and what I've learned into faith work here in Boston.
Good.
And then give back if I have the opportunity, for sure, to reconnect.
Yeah. So you would be, so this, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you are going to let your children be interfaith and let them learn about other faiths, and are you not afraid that your Christianity or Christian faith will be diluted by getting involved with other faiths or organizations for your children? I mean, you did it for yourself, but how do you think about your children?
Feeling of them. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I already live in an interfaith marriage. My husband is atheist, so our children were not christened, and I was perfectly happy with that because I was not christened as a child as well, but I did get baptized.
That's what I was going to say.
When
There's a difference in christening and baptism?
Baptism. So baptism is late when you decide it for yourself. And I was quite young. I was not even 12 years old. But I deeply felt I wanted to be baptized and
so
be
are
a
your
Christian.
Children baptized?
So my children are not.
Okay.
So they are not christened as children, which I was very happy with. But we had a blessing at home. So we invited people from church and other friends to have a party and to have a blessing. And my dad is a pastor as well as a social worker, so he did that. But we were always taught as children we could, we were free to go or free not to go to church, but at the same time, of course, my parents wanted us to be Christian, and I would like my children to believe in God because I think that has given me so much. And of course I would like them to come along to church. They don't want to come most of the time, and they have the opportunity to be home, so they can be home with my husband. While as my little one, she often comes along, she likes the music, etc.
The 3-year-old?
Yeah, the 3-year-old. But if I was going to answer honestly, yes, I would like them to be Christians for themselves, not for me. But it is up to them. It is up to them. It has to be up to them. And I want them to very much understand that there are different religions. I want to encourage them to find out what it means. I want to encourage them to have friends of different faiths. They already do.
So the schools they go, is there diversity?
This is quite a diverse school, but not as many other schools in Somerville. So it is fairly white, I'd say. But there is some diversity, and we have that. So
would you be concerned if they think, any of your children want to be not religious or become or choose any other faith, because the way we are in America, it is, when you're exposed to so many faiths and traditions and religions, some people, let's say if they want to be Jewish or Muslim or some other, how would you, at this stage, I mean, you might evolve to some other thought or feeling, but how do you feel it now? Would you want to convince them to stay as a Christian and just, learn about other faiths? And if they choose some other faith, how would you react to it?
I think I might feel that it's a little hard.
Good. I appreciate you being honest.
Yeah, but there's also an element of me feeling how exciting, actually.
Okay.
So I think I can feel both. And but first and foremost, it is their decision.
So you
that
do
when
think
that day
way.
comes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I interestingly, interfaith made my own Christian faith deeper in some ways.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to come to that question.
Yeah.
Like, some people think if you involve with other faiths or become interfaith, your own faith or tradition or religion will be diluted, which is, in your case, it's not like that. And same happened to me. I became more conscious and I delved more into Islam and learned more about it.
Yeah.
And then, but at the same time, I respected other faiths as well.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
And I have heard many people who actually say that. I'm excited because it's a bit of a holy experience. And I think
which experience is holy?
To be involved in interfaith work, and to see other people with other religions, feelings for their religion, sharing their spirituality. It is a holy thing. And I think, and also one of the biggest advantages is to break down fear. Because fear is the worst driving force in so many ways.
Yes.
And then to go, yes, I've grown as a Christian, but also to say we don't know things in life. Who knows? I might become a Muslim one day. I don't know that. But for the time being, this is what it is. I love my tradition. I love my faith.
Of course.
I am grateful for my faith. And but that does not mean I take away from somebody their faith. And one exciting thing about interfaith work is a very used term called holy envy. And I learned that.
Oh,
I learned that through.
I've never heard of it.
And that is super exciting. And I remember being part of a workshop, me and a Jewish person and a Muslim person, just easily telling our stories. And when the others were talking, I said to the Jewish girl, "Oh, I feel a bit of a holy envy to you Jews now, because you in the Jewish tradition, you've got so much vivid theological discussion. It's super exciting. And to you," I said to my Muslim friends, I feel holy envy to you Muslims as well, because you're like, I also want to be that devoted and pray 5 times a day, So that is an excellent ingredients in the work.
Thank you for saying that. That's wonderful. What would you do differently today if you knew that there was no tomorrow?
Oh, what I would do differently? Oh, I don't know. Would I kiss my husband more often?
Okay. That's nice.
I think.
Okay. That's interesting answer.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying these answers from
Yes.
everybody. Okay. So most probably you will be doing that today. Huh?
Yes, exactly. We will. We have a babysitter tonight. We're going to go out in town.
Oh, nice. Any message of hope you would like to give before we end our interview?
Message of hope would be that hope itself is what we have, and message of hope, we don't need to fear each other. We don't need to fear each other. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. And my last question, what lights you up?
What lights me up is to see people rejoicing and coming together, and to be challenged and see that I was wrong in a negative assumption.
Interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Thank you for staying with me through this exciting episode. Please don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode of Light Up with Shwa.